They didn't know that I remembered everything. Every loan, every lie, every joke at my expense. They thought they could make me feel guilty again. But this time I was ready. On Thanksgiving Day, they disowned me. And I exposed them all, fact by fact, document by document. And as soon as they opened that folder, the real show began. This year, Thanksgiving was particularly tense. The air in my parents' house was thick with forced smiles, the smell of turkey, and hidden resentment. But I came. I always came. Because I had to. Because. Family. We were sitting at the table, everyone had already served themselves, when Brielle, my sister, the queen of drama, stood up. She did it slowly, theatrically, as if she were performing on stage. She held a glass of wine in her hand and wore that smug smile I had known since childhood. "Before we start," she said, looking around, "there's something we want to say." The forks froze in midair. Even my uncle, who usually just joked and ate, fell silent. My stomach clenched. I had heard that voice before. That tone. It was the start of all my worst days as a teenager. It was with that tone that she once, accidentally, made me spend a month without a phone, accusing me of something I didn't do. "We've voted," Brielle continued, lifting her chin proudly. "And we've decided that you're no longer part of our family." Silence. Then an explosion. Laughter. Loud applause. Chloe, my cousin, stood up and started clapping her hands as if she had just seen the finale of a musical. Uncle Travis raised his glass. "To family order!" he exclaimed. My mother, sitting at the head of the table, wiped away a tear, from laughter. "Finally!" she said. Someone had to say it. I sat motionless. I couldn't move. A plate of turkey and stuffing steamed in front of me, but my appetite was gone. My throat burned like I had downed a glass of whiskey. "Mom?" I managed to say, glancing at her. She didn't even stop to look at me. "You've always been a problem," she said with a sigh. "Sometimes you have to cut away the excess so the body can breathe." My father didn't even look up. He just took a sip of beer and said, "Maybe it's for the best." I pushed my chair back slowly, as if any sudden movement could ruin everything even more. Then I stood up and said quietly, "Did you rehearse this?" "Of course," Brielle chuckled. "Did you think we were going to keep quiet? We've been tired of your presence for years. You're toxic. And we're tired of pretending." My mother took a spoonful of cranberry sauce and added calmly, as if discussing the weather, "It was a unanimous decision. A decision made for the good of our family." I looked from one face to the other. No one defended me. No one even flinched. No one. "Okay," I said, almost in a whisper. I reached for the bag standing next to my feet. I pulled out a thick black folder. I placed it in the middle of the table. The sound, dull, heavy, made everyone fall silent again. "I guess this might happen," I said. "That's why I prepared." "What is it?" Brielle asked suspiciously. I sat down and folded my arms. "See for yourself." Without hesitation, she tore off the cover and began to flip through the pages. First she smiled. Then she looked surprised. Then she was shocked. On the third page, her face turned white as a sheet. Then she screamed. No, not a scream, a real, piercing shriek. She recoiled, her chair slammed against the floor, and the folder slammed shut in her hands. You monster!" she cried, shaking. "You sick, twisted freak!" A murmur rose from the table, followed by a deafening silence. Liam, Brielle's husband, leaned forward and grabbed the folder she had dropped. He opened it, quickly scanned the first few pages, and froze. His jaw literally dropped. Is this all true?" he asked, looking up at me. I nodded once, slowly, firmly. Every word. Every check. Every screenshot. Absolute silence fell over the table again. The tension was palpable, like before a thunderstorm. A dull clang came from the kitchen. Someone had dropped a fork. My mother opened her mouth but couldn't utter a word. Her lips twitched like a fish washed up on shore. I stood up. No longer slowly, no longer hesitating. I was ready. For the first time, truly ready. You were so sure that I wouldn't fight back, I said. So sure that I would always remain quiet. Convenient. The same silent cash cow who pays and keeps her mouth shut. I leaned forward and looked Brielle straight in the eyes. For the first time, without fear. But you know what? Your show is over. She just blinked, unable to respond. Her face was red, but not from anger, from humiliation. I looked around at everyone. And I started to speak. Do you want to know what was in that folder? We'll get to that. But first, let me tell you how we got here. Because Brielle didn't just wake up one day and decide I wasn't family. It was years in the making. Brick by brick. Comment by comment. Betrayal after betrayal. I took a step toward the window. I needed to catch my breath. Then I turned around. I was never your favorite. And you know it. Brielle is your star. The straight-A student, the beauty, the one who always knew how to walk into a room and make everyone adore her. She could lie to your face and get an apology from the person she lied to. And me. I was different. Quiet. Closed off. I didn't seek attention. And you hated that. You saw my silence as weakness. I swallowed. When I was 18, I packed my things and left. I paid for college myself. I worked day and night. I never asked anyone for anything. And Brielle? I looked directly at her. She failed 2 majors. She went to Europe to find herself. She came back and married Liam, a man who looks more like a LinkedIn profile than a human being. Want some irony? I paid for half of their wedding. My parents couldn't afford it. But somehow after the wedding, they found the money for a 2-week cruise. I didn't complain. Never. Even when they called me the family accountant. I paid. I helped. My dad's teeth? Me. The utility bills when my mom said they were going to be cut off? Me. Even part of Chloe's tuition, yes, me. I took a breath. And felt my heart tighten. They thanked me? Yes. But always with that tone, you know. Well, you don't have a family, who else are you going to help? It seemed like it was your duty. Because I was lonely. No kids. No drama. Just me, my job, and my dog. In their eyes, I was the perfect sponsor. A person with no life, so I had to help those who did. Even if their lives were messed up. I looked straight at Brielle. You were particularly good at exploiting that. Liam lost his job? A call to me. You feel sorry for him? You make 6 figures a year. Car broke down. What's 2,000? Your kid needs a therapist? Who helped out? Pause. Me. Always me. I lowered my voice. Because I told myself it was family. But over time, help turned into a duty. Then it turned into a demand. And then it turned into aggression. I looked at Chloe, who looked away. It all started with jokes. Passive aggression at the dinner table. Oh, you're drinking wine again. I bet you got a bonus too. You don't have kids, so you have time to come in early. It's easy for you, no one's pulling at you at night. I paused. But then it got worse. Over time, the jokes at the family table became increasingly harsh and mean. At first, I laughed along with them. I accepted it because that's how it is. Because they're just joking. Because it's family. But every time after dinner, I would go home with a knot in my stomach. Oh, you brought wine? Brielle exclaimed at one of the holidays, loudly enough for everyone to hear. It must be expensive. It's great to have money for things like that when you live alone and have no expenses. Chloe laughed. One of my relatives winked. Of course, you were the first to arrive, added Aunt Diane. You don't have children, no one to put shoes on, no one lost a sock on the way to the car. And no husband, added Brielle with her usual false pity. You know, sometimes I envy you. You work as much as you want, come home and silence. Not like me. A husband, children, mess, constant fuss. I want that too, cried my cousin. You sit there alone and it's quiet. Happiness. But then the jokes crossed the line. You're so cold, Brielle said once, pouring herself some wine and not even looking at me. Maybe that's why you're still single. Who wants to live with someone who can't show their emotions? You don't understand what real stress is, my mother chimed in. You don't have children, you don't have a real life. Work, a dog, an apartment, that's not a life, that's a temporary existence. I swallowed those words like splinters. Over and over again. You're just angry, Brielle concluded. Because nobody needs you. But that was a lie. They all needed me. Constantly. Financially. Quietly. Behind closed doors. And then that text came. Brielle. Hey, can you co-sign a loan with us to open a coffee shop? Liam and I want to open a wellness cafe. It'll be great. You won't have to do anything, it's just a formality. I replied briefly. No. In response, silence. No explanation, no why. Just silence. Cold, hurtful silence. And it went on. Days turned into weeks. Then months. My mom stopped calling. When I wrote to my dad, he replied with one word, if he replied at all. No invitations to the next family dinner. Brielle blocked me on social media. Before that, she posted a story with the words, "Sometimes the healthiest thing to do is to cut the toxic out of your life." That should have broken me. But it didn't. I didn't sit in the dark, drowning my sorrows in wine. I didn't cry. I sat down at the table. I opened my laptop. And I started pulling strings. Printouts. Bank statements. Screenshots. All the requests for help. All the money transfers I had made over the last few years. I had kept everything, not because I planned to use it someday, but because I was used to being organized. Because I knew that if I didn't remember, no one else would. The amount shocked even me. Over the past 6 years, I have given my family over $69,000. $7,000 for Liam's rehabilitation after the incident that no one still talks about. $250 for Natalia's emergency dental work, which turned out to be a routine procedure to install a veneer. $3,000 for my dad's spinal surgery. $15,000 for my mom's credit card debt, which she accidentally hid until the power was cut off. $5,000 for Chloe's tuition because she didn't have time to get a scholarship. $4,800 for an urgent family situation, which turned out to be a trip to Cabo San Lucas Beach. Cocktails. Photos with influencers. And not once, not even once, did anyone say, "Let's pay it back." There wasn't even a hint. They just took it. And when I stopped giving, they decided I was a problem. So I created a folder. A physical one. A huge one. Inside were all the transfer receipts. Every letter. Every screenshot. And, as the cherry on top, screenshots from Brielle's page where she calls me a spineless cash cow, in a private chat that I accidentally gained access to. That's what was in that folder. That's why Brielle screamed when she opened it. Because it wasn't just the truth. It was the story, laid out in black and white, of what she had been trying to hide even from herself. Brielle stood there, clutching the folder in her hands, her fingers white with tension. She was silent. But the folder spoke for her, loudly, mercilessly, fact after fact, line after line. Everyone watched as her image as the perfect daughter, sister, and victim literally fell apart. She was torn apart. Not out of revenge. Out of facts. Her mother looked as if she was about to faint. Her hands were shaking, she pressed a napkin to her lips, but couldn't utter a word. Liam flipped through the pages with a stony face until he stopped. "What's this?" he asked, pointing to one of the lines. His voice was tense, like a taut string. $5,200 on a credit card, a hotel in Santa Monica? The name is John. I didn't answer. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to. I didn't make excuses. I didn't explain. I didn't try to persuade them. I just showed them the truth, and it did all the talking for me. Mom finally spoke. Her voice was trembling. You kept records? Everything? I turned to her. My voice was steady, almost calm. Someone had to do it. You never remembered anything. Silence. Brielle was still standing there, pale as a sheet. Her fists were clenched, her shoulders tense. Her eyes darted between me, Liam, and the ill-fated folder. And then she exploded. "This is a violation!" she screamed. "You had no right to keep this. You had no right to show it." I slowly stood up. I looked her straight in the eyes. "You just stripped me of my family status in front of everyone. And everyone applauded. And now you're offended that I came with facts instead of a toast?" Liam turned another page. "Brielle," he said, his voice no longer hiding the cracks, "what were those 3 nights in Santa Monica? And who is John?" She turned her head sharply toward him. "Don't start." "I already have," he replied. "And I won't stop until I get an answer." Brielle was silent. And that silence spoke louder than any explanation. "Can we all just calm down?" her mother intervened, raising her hands. "We need to be smart, keep a cool head." I laughed, short, joyless. "Cool and smart? Fine. Then let's remember how you called me a parasite while holding a check for $1,300 from me in your hands. Remember?" Mom blinked. For the first time that evening, she had no words. That was unfair," she whispered. "We were under pressure then." "What about me?" I raised my voice. "Wasn't I under pressure? You were stressed, and I, as always, saved the day. I saved all of you, and kept quiet. And then, when everyone seemed to be starting to understand, Dad, who had been silent until then, finally spoke. You're making too big a deal out of this." I slowly turned to him. My voice became low, hard, like stone. "No, Dad. I'm just saying it out loud for the first time. You saw it. You heard it. You were there. And you kept quiet. For years. Because it was easier that way. Because it was scary to say anything against them. And this is where we ended up." My father sat silently. He didn't try to refute a single word I said. He didn't say, "That's not true," or defend Brielle or my mother. He just stared at his plate, as if hoping to sink through it. And in that silence, everything was clear: his consent, his convenient silence, years of inaction. "You're just," Brielle began, but couldn't finish. Then she slammed her palm on the table. "You're just bitter. Nobody needs you anymore, that's why you're acting like this." I looked at her coldly. Without anger, without pity. "No, Brielle." My voice was firm, icy. "I'm not angry. I'm free. And I finally understand that." She grimaced and let out a bitter laugh. "God, you're so pathetic. You think that scene with the folder, those screenshots, you think that makes you a victim? It just looks like you're trying to control everyone. You're obsessed." I took a step forward. I didn't get close to her, just spoke clearly, one word at a time, as if cutting through the silence. "And you just proved that you only care about me when I pay your bills." She opened her mouth, but I interrupted her. "Don't play the martyr, Brielle. It's not you who's hurting. I chose to help. Yes. But at some point, it stopped being a choice. It became an obligation. You all made it the norm. I helped because I wanted to. You did it because you expected it. And when I stopped paying, you threw me away like a broken card." My voice trembled, not from sadness. From the rage I had kept inside me for years. "You didn't want a brother. You wanted a wallet on legs." And then Liam stood up. He held the folder in his hands, clutching it like evidence, like a shield. "Brielle," he said to her slowly, differently. "Is this true? All of it?" Brielle looked at him, and for the first time all evening, she couldn't say anything. There were no fake tears. No excuses. Just silence. A clean, silent surrender. You lied to me, Liam said. About the hotel. About the money. About him. You said he was manipulative. That he was making it all up. Her voice became thin and nervous. I had to. He was trying to turn everyone against me. No, I said evenly. You did it. All by yourself. And you succeeded. But not for long. Another silence fell. Everyone in the room was in a state of shock. Some stared silently at the wall, some at the floor, and some simply didn't understand what had happened. Then my mother leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. Her voice was softer, as if she were trying to grasp the last thread that could still bind us together. Listen, dear. We may have gone too far. We said too much. But we're a family. And families argue. But then they make up. Come on, let's just forget about it. I looked at her for a long time. Then I said slowly, No. You're not listening to me. What? She asked, taken aback. I'm not asking for peace. And I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not explaining anything to you. I'm telling you, I'm done. I'm over it. Brielle grimaced into a smile again. Come on. You've said that before. And you always came back. Don't be dramatic. This isn't a movie. I looked at her straight in the eye. For the first time without doubt. Without regret. Not like that. Not this time. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. Thin, white, neat. I placed it on the table. What now? My father asked wearily. The envelope slid across the tablecloth. Liam caught it. He opened it. He read the first line, and his eyes widened. What is this? He whispered. Documents, I replied. They're all signed. Revocation of power of attorney for Mom. Medical representation, cancelled. My number, deleted from emergency contacts. As of today, I am legally and emotionally no longer responsible for you. Mom gasped. Her hand reached for the napkin again. You're completely cutting ties with us? Completely. I confirmed. Starting right now. This is selfish, she exclaimed, and tears finally appeared in her voice. We were wrong, but we're still family. I took a step toward the door. I stopped. I looked at her one last time. No, I said quietly. You're not. I took my coat and put it on slowly. The room was so quiet that I could hear the distant clinking of dishes in the sink. I looked around at everyone. And then I left. Just like that. I opened the door. Stepped out onto the porch. My heels clicked on the wood. The cold air hit my face, but I didn't flinch. On the contrary, for the first time in a long time, I breathed deeply. And something inside me, something big, deep, tired, finally shifted. For the first time in many years, I truly breathed. I didn't just inhale air into my lungs, I felt something expand in my chest, as if space was being freed up from myself. I didn't go straight home. I was drawn in the opposite direction. I turned off the highway and onto an old dirt road that I hadn't driven on in probably 10 years. I stopped by a lake. The lake from my childhood. The same one where my father took me fishing on Saturday mornings. Where we roasted sausages over a campfire, listened to the wind rustling across the water, and were silent, not out of awkwardness, but out of the kind of silence that two people can share. I sat on the hood of the car, wrapped in my jacket, and looked at the still water. It was the same as it had been then, quiet, restrained, deep. And for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing. No guilt. No pressure. No one was waiting for money. No one wrote, I need it urgently, can you transfer a little more, you're on your own, it's easier for you. Just silence. And water. The next morning, the same silence. I woke up alone, no messages, no ringing phone. No. We need to talk. No. Call me when you can. I woke up alone. And that was enough. The second day, the same. Silence. And on the third day, it started. First, my mother. A missed call. Then another. Then a voice message. We didn't think you were serious. We were just angry. But you're still family. You're not going to abandon us, are you? I didn't respond. Then Brielle. The text came pouring in. You have no idea what you've done. Liam has filed for divorce. Is that what you wanted? You've ruined my life. You're sick. There's something wrong with you. I didn't answer. And finally my dad. Short, dry, with the same cold tone that had always forgiven my mother and sister, but forced me to suffer. You've gone too far. We've all said too much, but what you've done is war. Your mother is in tears. Come back. Fix this. I put down the phone. And didn't answer. Not because I couldn't. But because I didn't want to. I thought it would hurt. I thought I would lie awake at night, remembering every word, every detail, wondering, what if I really went too far? But instead I slept like a baby. Deeply. Without anxiety. For the first time in years, I didn't check my messages, didn't look for hidden manipulations in every "Hi, how are you?" For the first time, no one was pressuring me, demanding, complaining, or guilt-tripping me. I woke up early. I went for a run. I slowly made coffee. Calmly. Consciously. I made appointments with the dentist. With a therapist. With an ophthalmologist. All the things I had been putting off for years because it wasn't the right time. Now it was the right time. Finally. I changed my emergency contacts. I deleted my mom. My dad. Brielle. I blocked her on all platforms. All shared accounts are frozen. Passwords are changed. This is no longer about revenge. It's not even about anger. It was about closing the door. About 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I got a message from Chloe, my cousin who applauded when I was kicked out. I didn't know you paid for my education. I'm sorry. I was just following the crowd. You always helped me. You're the only one who really helped me. I didn't respond. But I read it. Twice. And then another surprise. A message from Liam. I filed for divorce. Everything in that folder is true. She lied. She cheated. Not just on you. On me too. You did the right thing. I should have left sooner. I read it several times. And smiled for the first time in a long time. Not out of joy or satisfaction, just relief. After Liam wrote that, there was a pause. And then another message. You did the right thing. I should have left a long time ago. I just didn't expect your actions to change everything so quickly. But it worked. It brought me down to earth. Thank you. I reread his words several times. Not because I was looking for confirmation. It was because it was the first time one of them had said something human to me. No strings attached, no manipulation. Just thank you. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done in many years. I opened a job search website and applied for a job in another city. Not because I was running away. But because I was no longer tied down. No one said, "You have to stay here, something might happen to your mom." No one asked, "Who will take care of us if you leave?" For the first time, that question disappeared. And I answered myself, "No one." And that's okay. I started to return to myself. To the person I had once pushed into the background because of endless family matters. I began to restore old connections that I had neglected, not out of indifference, but because of constant fatigue, busyness, and control from my family. I wrote to Tessa, a former colleague with whom I used to drink coffee on Fridays. I wrote to Ryan, an old friend from college whom I hadn't seen since I, temporarily, transferred money to my mother and couldn't go to the alumni meeting. And most unexpectedly, some of them got in touch themselves. It turned out that some of them had seen my Instagram post. That was brave. You're great. We're proud of you. Finally, someone said it out loud. No one asked for money. No one hinted at help. No one asked, Are you sure you did the right thing? Just support. Pure. Quiet. Real. Someone once asked me, do you regret it? The breakup? I thought about it. And I answered honestly. I only regret one thing. That I didn't do it sooner. I thought that was it. That it was the end. But with people like my family, there is never an end. They don't give up. They don't change. They just change tactics when they feel the effects of your absence. The first few weeks after Thanksgiving were quiet. But not the usual quiet, it was a beautiful silence. Almost supernatural. No phone calls. No messages. No manipulation disguised as concern. Just peace. For the first time. But then I received a message. From my mother. Just a photo. Their living room. It was decorated with Christmas decorations and a Christmas tree in the middle of the living room. The caption read, "It's not the same without you. Sophie keeps asking why Uncle isn't coming this year." I stared at that photo for a long time. And all I felt was not pain, not guilt, not emotion. I saw manipulation. Look what you've done. Look who you've hurt. No response. I didn't even think about it. The next day, the phone rang. It was Brielle. I let the call go to voicemail. A minute later, a message arrived. I know I messed up. But you shouldn't punish everyone for it. Again, no response, no hesitation, no emotion. I sat in my chair, wrapped in a blanket, with a cup of hot tea. It was snowing outside. Inside, there was silence. Pure calm. Mine. 2 minutes after the "I know I messed up" message, another one came, this time with that usual, caring note. Just go see Sophie. She misses you. She keeps asking when you're coming back. And there it was, the manipulative hook. The child. Always a child. Because who can withstand the cold when a child's voice sounds right? 2 minutes later, a new message, this time without smiles. By the way, Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage. I know you don't care anymore, but the bank called today. I just thought you'd want to know. And there it is. The same twist. It's disguised as concern. Covered by, we're just informing you. But the point is always the same: to ask. To hint. To push. A request that is hidden behind false warmth, behind a veil of nostalgia and a guilty tone. Everything looks like, we're just worried. But it always ends the same way: give, help, solve. I blocked the number. Without hesitation. The next day, I received a message from my dad. It was short. Cold. As usual. You have already proved your point. We understand. But that's enough. We need your help. We're your blood. Blood. This phrase has been used for years to justify everything: betrayals, insults, devaluation. Blood, as an obligation. But never as love. That evening I was sitting on the couch with a glass of wine. The cool air was coming in from the open window, the city was already asleep, and there was no noise. Just me. And silence. The silence they once called my greatest fear. You'll be alone and go crazy. People are not meant to be alone. But that night, in this cozy gloom, with wine and a chest full of fresh air, I felt something new for the first time: gratitude. Gratitude for the silence. For absence. For the space without control. But the silence did not last long. In May, an unknown number rang. I picked up the phone almost automatically. Is this Ethan? A man's voice said. Yes. Who is this? My name is Brian. I'm calling on behalf of your father. He mentioned that you are the chief executor of the family trust. I froze. I revoked that power of attorney 3 months ago. Everything has been finalized through a lawyer. My name doesn't appear anywhere else. Pause. Then, I see. Your father said he couldn't contact you personally and asked you to explore other options. They are difficult. Of course. We're out of options. The unlimited card was blocked. The soft cushion that everyone had been trampling on was gone. Now there were only workarounds. Third parties. Legal loopholes. I did not answer. I just hung up the phone. But even that was not the end. The final act of the drama came in June. A mailbox. A gray envelope with no return address. But I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was my mother's. Inside was a 3-page letter. It was handwritten, with pressure, with tears written all over it. The first page is full of regret. We said a lot of hurtful things. We did not realize how much you did for us. You have always been strong. We just didn't see it. The second sheet is guilt. My father is not well. Natalia is all alone. And Sophie. Sophie is having a hard time. She doesn't understand why her favorite ankle doesn't come anymore. The third sheet is a hook. We are selling the house. But the debt is higher than we thought. We need a little help just to get out of this. We promise this is the last time. Please, Ethan. For your father's sake. For the sake of the family. I sat there with the letter in my hands. For a long time. I allowed myself to read every sentence. To feel every line. To absorb all the feelings they were counting on, the burden of responsibility, the longing for what they had lost, the old familiar desire to fix everything. And then I got up. I went to the kitchen. I opened the trash can. And threw the letter away. Not because I didn't care. But because I finally realized they didn't need me. They needed a version of me that was silent and paid. The version that always said yes. That had no boundaries. And this version is dead. They wanted me but not the real me. They wanted the version of me that was always silent. The one that paid without asking questions. Who listened without objection. Who sacrificed everything, time, money, health, and never asked for anything in return. They needed me, who curled up in a ball every time they yelled at him. Who felt guilty for other people's debts. The one who hushed up insults because that's how adults behave. But that me disappeared. And every day I became more and more distant, less and less familiar even to myself. I am no longer their target. Not a scapegoat. Not a magical solution to their problems. I am not the mending of their broken home. I do not cement their cracks with my efforts. I'm not pulling anymore. I have let go. And the worst thing for them is that I feel great without them. I have moved. A new city. A new home, spacious, bright, without memories, without shadows. A new beginning. Without other people's expectations. Without the chains that used to be called duty. I found a job that doesn't keep me stressed at night. I started volunteering on weekends not because anyone needed me, but because I wanted to. No demands. No emotional blackmail. I built a life where my phone doesn't ring at midnight with another "You'll help me out again, right?" Where my successes are not used against me. Where my kindness is not a currency for other people's needs. I do not regret helping. But I do regret that for so long I considered it my duty. Do you want to know what real peace looks like? It is not when you have a family around you. It's when you have only those who don't call you family, except when you need them. A little over 3 months have passed since I moved. The city was new, the streets were strange, the faces were unfamiliar, but for the first time, it didn't scare me. It was inspiring. I found a job that doesn't eat my soul. I started therapy. Real therapy, the kind where you stop trying to fix everyone around you and ask for the first time, "What about me?" I started cooking for myself. Sleep deeply. Go for walks without anxiety. And, most importantly, I no longer flinched when the phone rang. Yes, sometimes I think about Sophie. About what she is being taught. What she will consider normal when she grows up. But I also know that I was an example. A person who said enough. A few days ago, I received another letter. Again, handwritten by my mom. Only 3 words. "We are still a family." No context. No apology. No change. The same hook, just a different bait. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No anger. No pain. No regret. I just threw the letter away. And made myself dinner. And here I am again. I am writing. Because it was here among strangers that I felt more understanding than ever among my family. And I want to ask, did I do the right thing? For saying no, and this time for real. For throwing down the burden. For letting go. For not coming back. Or was I too tough? Or maybe I just finally stopped being the only one who held everything together? I don't know. But I do know this. For the first time in my life, I am not surviving. I woke up every day without the feeling that something was going to explode. Without that familiar anxious breath in my throat. The work brought pleasure, not devastation. The people around me wanted nothing from me but my presence. And in this simplicity, this honesty, I finally began to relax. And then she appeared. Her name was Isla. We accidentally ran into each other in a bookstore on the corner, both reaching for the same book. She smiled first. I was embarrassed. Then we talked for a few minutes about authors, coffee, and the city. She left her number, and I hesitated for a few days before writing. Not because I didn't want to, but because I had forgotten what it was like to be interested in someone, not because of what they can give, but simply because they are. We started to communicate. At first, it was easy, cautious. But with each new message, each call and meeting, I began to remember myself as I had never been with my family. Free. Relaxed. At ease. She called me for no reason. Hi, I wanted to hear your voice. How are you today? And I stopped. Every time. Because I was used to the idea that a call was either a request or a disaster. And here it was just a voice. Someone just wanted to hear me. And it changed everything. We walked around the city in the evenings, laughing at things that only we knew. We drank tea, hugged, talked about life, music, dreams. For the first time in years, I felt that I was seen. Not as a resource. Not as a resource. But as a person. You are very caring, she once said. But at the same time, you are always trying to prove something. As if you are waiting to be accused. Maybe, I answered. Because I used to be loved only when I gave something. And I'm just glad you're here. Those words stayed with me. I never thought that someone would appear in my life that would make me want to trust again. But that's what she was. Not a savior. Not a heroine. Just a person who showed me that love can be simple. Pure. Not loaded with demands. Not disguised by guilt. My life began to fill up. Not with the illusion of a new family, but with real experience, sincere friends, simple moments, silence that didn't scare me. I created a life in which I didn't have to survive. A life in which I wanted to stay. A life in which I was not used, but accepted. And when I looked at Isla, when she laughed, lightly touching my shoulder as she wrote to me, "Today was a good day, thank you," I knew. The past was behind me. And for the first time in my life, I was not just living. I wanted to live on.